ever hopped on a train and wished, like it could just teleport you to like your destination? Boom, you're there. Well, today we're diving deep into that fantasy.
Minus the teleportation, for now.
Right, exactly. Haha. But we are talking high-speed rail, specifically how Japan's Shinkansen, the OG bullet train, went from a what-if to a global icon.
And it really is fascinating. You hit on something there. It's so much more than just how fast can this thing go?
Oh, absolutely. It's like Japan's post-war comeback story, all packed into this sleek, futuristic train. It just screams, look at us now, doesn't it?
It really does. It showcases their, oh man, their engineering, their design sense, their culture, everything.
Okay, so picture this. 1964, Tokyo's hosting the Olympics, the world's watching. Why did Japan decide to go all in on high-speed rail right then at that moment? What was the big push?
Well, you got to rewind a bit. Post-World War II, Japan, they're rebuilding, right? And they are determined, like really determined, to prove themselves.
Yeah, to show their back and a force to be reckoned with on the world stage.
Exactly. They needed a symbol, like a huge symbol of modernity, efficiency, and the Shinkansen. It was perfect for that.
And it wasn't just like a PR stunt either.
Yeah, right.
Japan's geography, it's not exactly train-friendly, is it?
No, not at all. It's an archipelago, islands, mountains. Connecting everything was a huge challenge.
I bet. Before the Shinkansen, how long did it even take to get, say, from Tokyo to Osaka?
Oh, man, think like over 16 hours by train.
16. You'd need like a whole extra suitcase just for snacks.
Seriously. High-speed rail wasn't just, oh, this would be nice. It was essential, connecting the country in a way that just wasn't possible before.
So, necessity. The mother of invention, right? But I'm curious, Japan's rail system, wasn't it all narrow gauge?
It was, and still is, largely. Which you'd think smaller tracks, slower trains.
Right, that's what I think.
But, and this is where it gets cool, that constraint, it actually drove their innovation.
Okay, now you've got to explain that one. How do smaller tracks equal a faster train?
Think about it this way. A narrower base, if you engineer it right, can actually increase stability, which, at the speeds they wanted to go, essential.
So they turned a potential limitation into like a performance advantage. That's brilliant.
Exactly. They designed the whole Shinkansen system around it. But they had other hurdles too, don't forget.
Oh, right, earthquakes. Japan's basically built on a giant shake weight. How do you design a high-speed train for that?
That's where, you see that Japanese ingenuity everyone talks about. They've got these advanced seismic, like, monitoring systems, early warning, the works.
So the trains know before the ground even shakes, basically.
Well, pretty close to it. Sensors, right. They pick up the tiniest tremors, the train's like, nope. Emergency brakes, everything stops.
Smart train.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got these super safe, earthquake-proof trains, but they're going fast. What about the noise? Did they just, like, hand out earplugs to everyone in a 5-mile radius?
Uh-huh. No earplugs required. Though that is funny.
Why?
The thing is, tunnels, right? Big engineering hurdle there.
Tunnels. How so?
Think about it. The piston effect, they call it. Train enters a tunnel, high speed, pushes a column of air.
Like a syringe, almost.
Yes, exactly. And that air, it slams into the other end of the tunnel. Boom!
Yikes. Like a mini sonic boom every time.
Basically, not exactly neighbor-friendly, so they had to get creative.
I bet. How'd they solve that one?
The nose. The train's nose. You ever notice how the newer Shinkansen models, they've got that really long, pointy front?
Yeah, it's pretty distinctive. Aerodynamic, I always thought.
That's part of it, reducing air resistance. But it's also designed to, like, slice through that air in the tunnel, minimize that pressure wave.
So it's quieter.
Way quieter. It's amazing, really. Form, A&D function, all in the shape of the train. But speaking of impact, right, how'd the rest of the world take this high-speed marvel Japan had created?
Right, from problem to, like, oh, we want one of those.
Exactly. It kick-started a whole, like, global high-speed rail revolution. Suddenly, everyone saw the potential connecting cities in record time.
And I get it. Who wants to deal with airports, delays, all that, when you can just glide through the countryside at hundreds of miles an hour?
Right. It's romantic even, and effective. France, they took that inspiration, developed their TGV network. Then there's China. Now they've got the biggest high-speed rail network in the world.
So the Shinkansen, it's like the granddaddy of them all.
In many ways, yeah. But it's not as easy as just, oh, lay down some track and you're good to go. Building these systems is a huge undertaking, even now.
Yeah, I bet. What are some of the challenges, beyond the obvious, like cost.
Cost is a big one, of course, but also political will, environmental concerns, all of that factors in. Look at the UK, for example, their High Speed 2 project.
I was just thinking about that. It's been in the news a lot, hasn't it? Lots of back and forth on it.
For good reason, it's tricky. UK government, they want that Shinkansen success story. But High Speed 2, it's facing public pushback, environmental impact questions, and the budget, oof.
Yeah, those cost overruns can really derail a project.
Tell me about it. So it goes to show, even with the best tech, the best intentions, there are always going to be speed bumps. It's more complex than just the engineering.
It's like the innovation has to happen on every level, not just the train itself, but how we approach these huge projects.
100%. Which, speaking of innovation, we should talk about the future of high-speed rail, right?
Yeah.
And that brings us to...
Maglev.
Ah, yes, maglev. Okay, so for people who haven't nerded out about this like I have, explain it. What is it? How's it different? And 400 miles per hour, how?
It's wild, right? Maglev, it uses magnets, basically. Levitation, propulsion, the whole shebang.
So floating trains. Floating trains. Japan, again, they're leading the way. The Chu Shinkansen, that's their big maglev project. Tokyo to Osaka, like an hour?
Tokyo to Osaka in an hour. Okay, that's just, my mind can't even. But realistically, when are we going to be writing these things? Maglev to work? Anyone?
Well, rush hour on a 400-mile-per-hour train might be a whole other experience.
True. I guess baby steps, right?
Right. It's not quite mainstream yet, but it is gaining traction. Lots of projects popping up, different countries looking into it for, like, city transit, even longer distances.
Makes sense. It's one thing to build a whole new line, Tokyo to Osaka, blank slate, but fitting it into, like, existing cities, that's got to be tricky.
Oh, yeah. Totally different ballgame. Which brings us back to innovation, right? It's not just the tech itself, but the whole approach, the planning, making it work in the real world.
Because maglev, it's not just plink down some tracks and you're good to go, is it?
Nope. Special tracks, dealing with electromagnetic fields, the whole thing.
A whole new set of challenges.
Mm.
But that's kind of exciting in itself, isn't it? Figuring it out, pushing those boundaries.
Absolutely. And it reminds me, you know, the Shinkansen, back in the day, people thought it was crazy too impossible.
Now look at it.
Right. What started as let's connect our country, it's this global symbol now. Progress, innovation, the whole deal.
It's like a reminder that these big, ambitious projects, they can have a huge ripple effect. The Shinkansen, it didn't just change how people got around Japan, it changed how we think about trains, period.
Completely. And as we, keep looking ahead, what's next in transport? Maybe it's maglev, maybe it's something we haven't even imagined yet. But those lessons from the Shinkansen, they're still gold.
Yeah, it's inspiring, honestly. So to anyone listening, if you're ever feeling stuck, right, like creatively in your career or even just same old commute every day, remember the Shinkansen.
I love that.
Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs, they come from embracing those challenges, pushing those limits, and dreaming really big.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Who knows, maybe one of our listeners will be designing those future trains, those impossible projects. Until then, keep those imaginations running at high speed.